Hello, guys. Welcome to Cosmic Road. Woohoo! That's right. We've got a special Thursday night edition of Cosmic Road. David Grusch might be testifying at the next UFO hearing in Congress on November 12th or 13th. At least that's what's being reported online. So let's talk about it, guys. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. And yeah, my co-pilot right now is Benny. He's hanging out with me. Let's see how far we can get before he tells me it's time to do something else. But let's see. Okay, here we go. Red Panda Koala is saying David Grusch to testify November 13th at UFO hearing, according to GTP podcast in Dizzy Resi. I love that. David Grusch to testify. That is awesome. We'll see if that happens. But who are these guys? Game Tech Politics, Oregon alumni. Hey, I used to live in Oregon for a few years. Too rainy for me. I had to leave. Investigative journalist. Okay, well, that sounds promising. Former Intel analyst, gaming nerd, and tech enthusiast. I say the crazy things so you don't have to. And he's got over 30,000 followers. Okay, cool. I'm not super familiar with Game Tech Podcast, but if you are, let me know if you think that's a credible source. Former Intel analyst and journalist. Sounds promising. Sounds like probably a decent source, right? In Desi Resi, necromartist, independent researcher and Constitution defender. What is a necromartist? Do I want to know? Making art of the dead? I don't know. Guys. I'm not sure about that individual, but let me know if you follow Desi Resi. Sounds intriguing, if nothing else. And Mike Disclosure is also talking about this. David Grusch testifying at the UAP hearing on November 13th. This has been confirmed by congressional committee members. This might be the shot in the arm that UAP Disclosure needs right now. And he links to Desi Resi. And let's see what Desi Resi has to say. Sharing the tweet from Game Tech Politics. I want to publicly thank DOD, the OG, and Desi Resi for helping me with contacting sources today to verify the witnesses for the UAP hearing today. Incredible work by two incredible women. Thank you, ladies, so much. And we got a fist bump right there. So yeah, that's awesome. High fives and fist bumps. Sounds good, guys. Well, that's awesome. Well, I would love it if David Grusch came back, especially if he has been cleared to say more than he was last time. He went through the adoption process. He was allowed to say what he said. But hey, it's been like, what, a year? Or how long has it been since David Grusch testified? And, ideally, hopefully, my thought is that he has been cleared to say even more than he did back then. So yeah, are you guys hearing me? Is my mic working and everything cool? And hey guys, so glad you could join me, guys. Let me know what all questions and comments you have. Looks like we got a good group today. Gary Jeffrey says, I think the fact that no new names could be a sign they have the right amount of people with evidence that could blow this whole thing open. Yeah, guys. I mean, we've got a really all-star lineup so far that we know about. David Grusch, Lou Elizondo apparently testifying, and Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who's going to blow the lid off of USOs, which is a really, uncovered area of ufology, especially in the mainstream. Few people are talking about what is going on under the water and, these trans-medium objects that come and go from the ocean. We found out, Danny Sheehan anyway is saying that the Nimitz battle group, from the Tic Tac incident in 2004, that the reason they were dispatched into those waters was to check out a UFO base underwater. Now, I would love to see that confirmed by somebody. Danny Sheehan is, I'm sure, got amazing sources, but, big if true, right? And that's definitely something that I would like to see some corroboration on. But I mean, if that's true, then the Tic Tac and those other UFOs, Kevin Day says there were maybe up to 100 UFOs over an entire week that were coming and going from the sea to the space as far as their sensors could detect them. They were moving in, at that distance in like a second, just super fast, without even making a sonic boom. Obviously, doing something non-mundane, using some exotic propulsion technology or displacement technology, doing something super fancy. And so were they coming from under the water? Were they coming from some underwater UFO base, something like that? Or did they originate in space and they were going down to an underwater base? And was that activity triggered by the Nimitz fleet going into those waters to check out the UFO base there? If that's what happened. Because, yeah, that's like interaction, right? That's the phenomenon interacting with the military that is going to investigate them. That reminds me of Skinwalker Ranch. They go and they investigate it, and the phenomenon there deliberately reveals itself to people. In fact, the phenomenon at Skinwalker Ranch even sparked the whole thing, right? By revealing itself to James Lakatsky, thus him creating or getting ALSAP formed and everything to investigate the phenomenon. So, which would not have happened if it had not deliberately revealed itself to James Lakatsky in that floating Mobius loop kind of thing, right? So, we've heard multiple people like Lou Elizondo and others talk about, and I think James Lakatsky and Colm Kelleher have also talked about this, about the nature of the phenomenon that can see into the future or that interacts outside of time in a way that we don't really understand. So by revealing itself to James Lakatsky back in the day, did the phenomenon know that he was going to create ALSAP or get the whole ball started investigating Skinwalker Ranch and other places? Did the phenomenon want to be studied, right? And then periodically it will reveal itself to the people studying it. Is that what happened at the Nimitz incident with the fleet there? Man, I would love to know. And if they were sent to investigate it, who was investigating it? Did they have a special team? Did the Nimitz carrier have a team of paranormal or UFO researchers there to, facilitate that investigation? I mean, that's juicy, right? That's super juicy. We haven't heard boo from any of those guys. If so, we haven't heard anybody speak to that. So, I wonder about Danny's information. It's a gangbuster story, but I do wonder about it. Either way, you've got apparently a UFO based in the Guatemala Islands and another one in Catalina, and they're not that far apart from each other in the grand scheme of things. So definitely a hot area over there. And then you've got, Marina del Rey, where Dr. Robert Scheidt captures all the dragon UFO footage. It's a hot area. Stuff is going on there in that area of the ocean. Maybe all over, but definitely in that area. So the testimony of Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet is super important. Him shining a light on USOs is so important. I can't wait to see what he's able to share. I'm also really looking forward to Richard Dolan's book on USOs that is coming up in the very near future. I forget what the release date is. Do we have a release date for that? If you've seen it and I haven't, let me know. Either way, what's going on under the waters is super important. So God bless Tim Gallaudet for stepping up. And I can't wait to see what David Grusch has to share, if indeed he is going to be part of this new hearing. That's amazing. Again, I hope that he has something new to say. I imagine that he does. Otherwise, why go? Instead of just doing like an encore performance, I would imagine that he has something new to reveal. He's already talked about the other dimensional aspect of the phenomenon. He's talked about the control group assassinating people. He's talked about biologics. How much further is he going to go? I mean, that's pretty far, right? Is he going to talk about contact with the phenomenon, like actual contact, like details of that contact? What is he going to talk about? Let me know what you think. Let me read some of your comments. And I'm going to try to get to as many of your comments as I can. If you really want me to see your comments, like 100%, leave a super chat or a super thanks, because it will appear in bold on my screen, and I'll read your comment 100%. I'm going to try to get to as many of them as I can anyway, though. Yeah, big if true, Frankie says. Absolutely. Rich Universe says big news. Jazz says great. He needs to be there. I mean, he deserves to be there, and so does Lou, and so does Tim Gallaudet. But, I want David Grusch's 40 plus whistleblowers, damn it. I want the participants of the UFO crash retrieval and, reverse engineering programs. Some people from what's it called? Immaculate Constellation, which is a parent organization, apparently. Haha. So if there's a parent organization, there's sub organizations, sub programs. So, people from some of those programs could be among David Grusch's whistleblowers or witnesses. So why not get some of those guys up there? Or do you think that we could get some of those guys up there? Because they've been keeping the names of the panelists kind of under wraps, right? They didn't want them to be scared away like they were last time. So maybe they're going to surprise us on November 13th with some unexpected panelists, people that are actual participants of those programs, people that have gotten their hands on a UFO and reverse engineered it. Or do you think that some of these guys are going to start revealing that indeed their involvement goes deeper than they have let on so far? Is Tim Gallaudet going to say that he was part of a program, a direct part of a program? Wouldn't that be amazing? I'm not expecting that, but that would be pretty cool. Let's see. Dean Johnson is also saying September 26th, Nancy Mace told Matt Laszlo, I need people who've maybe seen some and can tell us some stuff. But writing the notice, maybe UAP people who've maybe seen some shit and can tell us some stuff, seem too cumbersome as a hearing title. That would have been an amazing hearing title instead of what's it called? UFO, disclosing the truth on UFOs. I think something like that is the title of the hearing on November 13th, which is it's a cool sounding title. Absolutely disclose the truth about UFOs 100%. But I like people who have seen some shit. I think that's an even better title. But that's what we need. We need those whistleblowers, those witnesses, those direct participants, people who have actually reverse engineered a UFO, or who knows? I mean, maybe flown a UFO or something, right? According to people like Mike Herrera, we have our own UFOs, and indeed we fly around in them. Mike said that we fly around in UFOs so much that the pilots who are doing that and the people on those ships are bored of whatever they're doing off-world. Now, I told him I would love to get to the point of being bored flying around in a UFO, right? And, that begs the question, what are they doing up there? If Mike's information is true, and, I've heard that from multiple people, it's not just Mike, that, of course, we have our own UFOs, and they're operational. We haven't just tinkered around with them and gotten them to fly a little bit, as in the Bob Lazar story, although I don't doubt Bob. I think that's just one, part of it, kind of on the outer layer of what they're doing. But there are deeper layers where they are working with beings and they're flying around in UFOs, sometimes their own UFOs, sometimes the UFOs of the beings themselves. And so what are they doing up in space, right? I mean, are they going to other planets? Do they have bases on other planets? Is there some sort of a secret space fleet thing, a la the 20 and Back program, where they are, involved in alien conflicts on other worlds? I hate 20 and Back. I think 20 and Back is so stupid. But what if it's real, guys? Jason Sands, to me, seems like a pretty credible person. He's certainly not saying things that are what people would expect or want him to say. He goes out there, which makes me think, maybe he's on the level. And he didn't want to talk about the 20 and Back stuff. He admitted that something like that may have happened to him, but he was still processing it and didn't want to talk about it, which makes me take him even more seriously. But either way, the UFO control group seems to be doing something in space. What is it? I mean, seriously. I mean, what do you use a UFO for, right? I mean, we could think of many, practical reasons for that sort of technology here on Earth. You could get around the world in a few seconds, right? Putting the plane industry out of business. Transportation, totally revolutionized. Whatever energy sources powering those UFOs will transform the energy industry, et cetera, et cetera. Game-changing, world-changing technology. But if you're going off-world, what are you doing? I mean, what is up there? You're not going to engage in trade with moon rocks, right? It's got to be moon men or Martians or other solar systems, or hell, maybe they're going to other dimensions, right? If these are other dimensional vehicles, what the hell? Let me know your thoughts. And let me read some of your comments. Frankie says, when is Jay Stratton going to testify? Oh, I would love. That's a great question, Frankie. I would love to see Jay Stratton testifying. He's got his book coming out, and apparently we're going to get an alternative view of ATIP and, potentially the UAP task force from Jay Stratton. Apparently his story conflicts with Lou Elizondo's story. I'm unclear exactly how, but Jay Stratton's wife had some pretty strong words against Lou, and Lou has come out. Jay has come out saying some, slightly less harsh words. But, apparently Jay Stratton's story seriously conflicts with Lou's story. And in Jay Stratton's book, we are going to get an entirely different account. I don't know what that is. I would imagine that it diminishes Lou's role in that. But might we get some clearer picture on ATIP and OSAP and the UAP task force and what was going on there? Lou's account in his book, Imminent, was fascinating, and there was some really juicy stuff in there. But some of it, wasn't 100% clear to me. Some of the connective tissue didn't, I wasn't quite following exactly what became what and what his participation was. So, yeah, absolutely. I look forward to Jay Stratton's book. I don't expect him to testify, but he would be an amazing panelist, wouldn't he? So, yeah, that'd be great. Rich Universe says, do you think Dick Cheney will testify? Man, I'm sure Dick Cheney knows some stuff. I'm sure he does. Some people think he's the puppet master of some of this. I don't know. I would love some more solid information on that, but no, I don't think he's going to testify. Let's see. Ron Davidson says, David Grusch says he was actually a firsthand witness in one of his documentaries. Can you point me to that, Ron? I mean, I'm sure he's seen like a UFO, but did he actually see a crash retrieval, or did he see some of the reverse engineering? We know that there are classified elements of his story that he told to Congress that we don't know. So that could well be part of it. That wouldn't surprise me a bit. I would love for him to be able to talk about that openly. And maybe that's one of the things he'll be able to talk about, right? If he has been cleared to say more, could that be part of it? But of course, that would be, them admitting that there is a UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. So, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but he has been cleared to say that he's interviewed witnesses and participants of those programs. So it's not a huge leap for him to have actually been witness to that. So maybe. But yeah, David Grusch definitely knows stuff that he can't talk about. Let's see. Rich Universe says, are we getting any evidence this time? Well, that is the question. Dan says, hit the like button. Absolutely. Everybody hit the like button, hit the subscribe button and the bell, of course, to be notified of future videos. If you want me to see your comment 100%, leave a super chat or a super thanks, because your comment will appear in bold on my screen and I won't be able to miss it. But I'm going to try to get to as many of your comments as possible anyway. Terry Alt says, Matt Ford is saying that it's not true. Perhaps the running interference. Yeah, there is, like I say, I just gave the sources for this David Grusch story. One of them seems pretty solid, a former Intel guy and a journalist. And he says it's been confirmed. Mike Disclosure says this has been confirmed. Who knows, guys? I think Patrick got in hot water for saying that Chris Mellon was going to be at the hearing, and he's not. But this is actually kind of a different topic, but related, obviously. Chris Mellon, his reason for not before Congress on the 13th. He says he was planning to go at the original date in September, but when the date moved to November, he had plans in place with his wife to go on vacation. Now, there must be some vacation. I love Chris. I'm happy that he and his wife were going on vacation. And maybe there's just, that set in stone, that's a concrete date they have to make for whatever reason. It's probably what's going on, right? But at the same time, for most vacations, you would think that going before Congress, having your day before Congress, would be sufficient reason to alter your plans a couple of days, right? That's interesting. I think probably there was something more going on there. Something behind the scenes, some reason why Chris didn't go before Congress, and maybe he doesn't want to go before Congress. He seems to be content being more behind the scenes. He's getting a lot done behind the scenes, and he has gotten a lot done. So maybe he's satisfied with that. But I would love for him to get his day before Congress, just like Lou. Definitely deserves it. We wouldn't be where we are without Chris Mellon. Although, sometimes I disagree with him, like the Bob Lazar story. Chris is adamantly opposed to the Bob Lazar story. He says he knows somebody that worked at Area 51, totally disputes Bob Lazar. But there's an awful lot of evidence to suggest that Bob is on the level. So I wonder about Chris's source there, or, maybe even his intention, in that. He's also not Jon Stewart was saying that he's not a big fan of the alien interview video either, which is too bad. Dennis. Hey, Dennis. Going beyond recovered craft and bodies. Yeah. Dennis, where do you think he's going? Do you have any inside knowledge or any insight what David Grusch is going to be talking about that does go beyond recovered craft and bodies? Is it reverse engineering? Is it dealing with living beings, open contact with the phenomenon? Are we going to get, information on the Eisenhower meeting, or if that happened, or meetings, or anything else? How far back does it go, this contact? Does it go back to Truman? Does it go back further? My mind goes back to the giants. And the Smithsonian was apparently smashing giant bones in the early 1900s. That's when the cover-up of the giant story began. So, does that coincide with the cover-up of UFOs? Maybe, maybe not. We know it looks like the CIA was getting involved in the cover-up in the 50s, making sure journalists weren't favorably covering the UFO story. So, I don't know how far back the UFO cover-up goes exactly, but at least the 50s. But I do wonder about, how it may be tied in with the giant story. The New York Times back in the day, 100 years ago, had multiple articles talking about people uncovering giant bones. This was the New York Times, and they weren't misidentified, mammoth or dinosaur bones. They were giants. It was crazy guys. And this was mainstream media 100 years ago talking about giants, people recovering from giant bones, and they were finding them in mounds, and often, not always. And then they were going to the Smithsonian, who was smashing them apparently. Not cool. Nova Era says, even if the hearings info isn't all that new to us, it's still sounding the alarm and continuing the investigation. Yeah, absolutely, Nova. I hear you, and I totally agree. I was really hoping to get David Grusch's 40 plus whistleblowers or witnesses, but at least this is continuing the conversation with some really credible people. Tim Gallaudet, David Grusch, Lou Elizondo, maybe some others, all of whom are amazing, and I can't wait for their information. And I'm sure the Congress people will have great questions for them. MZ Will says there are so many different voices saying different things. I don't know what to think. Yeah, and just to get back to the David Grusch at the hearing story, like I say, that's contingent upon these sources. So will that actually pan out or not? I don't want to commit to that, like, maybe Patrick did with the Chris Mellon story. But yeah, I probably should have put a question mark in there instead of an exclamation point. But that is the story. That is the story. Kill the Stigma podcast says, "Hey Jack, it's Christian here. Hey Christian Morales, how's it going? Oh, you have your own podcast now. Okay, great. Everybody go check out Christian Morales' podcast, Kill the Stigma podcast. Great title. Love that. I think I've already subscribed to that. But yeah, everybody go check it out. Kill the Signal. Yeah, I'll just say Christian. Matt from the Good Trouble Show said Grusch won't testify. Well, if he does, I want him to have something new to say, but it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't, because he's already had his day before Congress, right? But we'll see. We'll see when the day comes. Callan, oh my God, I can't do your name. Man. Says Lou said in an interview that David Grusch knows a lot more than what he lets on. I 100% believe that. Aaron says, "Hi from Ohio." How's it going? Ohio? In Ohio? Christian says, "They all know a lot more." Yeah, I'm sure they all know a lot more. And Lou's got orbs in his house. What more exposure has he had? What more information does he have? How deep does the rabbit hole go? Rich Universe says, "Jason Sands should. His story and events are firsthand." Yeah, I mean, but can you imagine somebody testifying before Congress talking about 20 and back? That would be insane. Christian says, "I don't know how we'll get those classified details if Immaculate Constellation is really the parents' program." Yeah, but I'm surprised we've gotten what we've got. I mean, David Grusch was cleared to talk about interviewing these witnesses that were part of UFO crash retrievals and reverse engineering, right? And, bodies, assassinations, contact. So, a lot has been cleared. So all we need is, we need a lot, but it would be great to put some flesh on those bones, right? We have some bare bones details that, yeah, there are these things and there are people involved in them, but what are the details? What are the specifics? That's what I would really like fleshed out here. So I think, even if David Grusch weren't cleared for the whole enchilada, at least maybe he could put some flesh on those bones. So I would like to see him, or better yet, some of these direct participants say that. But, I'm sure David Grusch has seen more than we know and could speak to that. And, maybe he will be cleared to speak, to say that at some point. Joss Ray says, Sheehan said Grusch had a lot more to say. It was just his lawyer preventing him. Who's Grusch's lawyer? Wasn't it the former IG? I'm forgetting his name. Was it started with an M, I think? Yeah. So interesting. I guess he's probably very. I mean, that guy knows some stuff, and he's been around the block. And it wouldn't surprise me if he were a little cautious, knowing what he knows. But that's interesting. Uncle D says, "I'm finding that this is not true." Well, if you can provide a link to credible information that it's not true, let me know so I can stop talking about that and start talking about something else. Nova says, "We need Chris Bledsoe summon an orb in that hearing." Yeah, man, that's what we need, right? Chris Bledsoe speaking before Congress, asking the lady to appear before Congress. Wow, wouldn't that be a kicker, right? This angelic entity or whatever she is, Hathor, the divine feminine, the incarnation of the divine feminine, whatever the lady is. If she just appears in Congress, can you imagine that? Or at least just some orbs or something? Oh, that'd be incredible. Then Chris could probably do it too, right? I mean, maybe they wouldn't reveal themselves to Congress. Maybe that would be too overt. They do seem to have something of a hands-off policy. Like, they're not too overt, right? They're letting us know about them, and you can interact with them and you can summon them. Some have a closer connection to it than others, like Chris. But they don't do a lot of overt stuff. You don't get a Phoenix Lights in the daytime, right? At least so far. And the Phoenix Lights was pretty much a one-time thing. although there's been, Washington, D.C. flyover of, what was it, 52. There have been some pretty major sightings, but that was at night also. So yeah, we don't, it's not very overt. So I wonder if they would reveal themselves if Chris did go before Congress and ask the beings to show up. But who knows, guys? They might. The time might be here. Dennis says the hearing witnesses may have changed due to the election results. Yeah, that's very possible. I'm sure that has changed a lot of things in Washington. Ron says Grusch said he was a first-hand witness. I believe it. Imfram says, what if the alien interview book is true? What is the book? Did John write a book? Who else wrote a book? Remind me what the alien interview book is. I know I'm familiar with the video. I'm not familiar with the book. Lucas Pastina says, what about Chris Mellon? He will be on vacation trip. Yeah, I just talked about that. I wonder why Chris couldn't have rescheduled his vacation to go before Congress. I mean, if there was ever a reason to reschedule a vacation, that would be it. But maybe there was some event that he and his wife had to go to that was set in stone. Very possible. Or it could be something else was going on behind the scenes. Would love to know the answer on that. Heiser says, what you gonna do when the woo becomes true? Love it. Uncle D says, definitely stigma. We'll just have to be patient and hope Congress doesn't blow this chance. Christian says, I don't know at this point. Anything is possible. Time travel 100%. Or my theory is the Watchers of Time and I got a high school diploma to prove my credibility in some college. They are there. Unimportant events. Okay, I probably got that muddled, but yeah, time travel seems to be a thing. It's really annoying. I hate time travel. Time travel is stupid. I hate it. You can't make sense of anything. A doesn't cause B. Z can cause A, and B can cause C, but C, D may have been caused by M. It just gets all muddled. Time travel is just so stupid, but it seems to be a thing, guys. These ships, a lot of them seem to be able to come and go from our reality, our 3 or 4 dimensions, and go beyond that somewhere else. And if the 4th dimension is time, then they can go beyond time, outside of time, which is actually what many experiencers report who have been aboard these ships. People like Whitley Strieber and Deep Prasad will talk about being taken somewhere to a deeper level of reality. And some people talk about going to other dimensions, either in body or in spirit, with these beings. A lot of this activity is other dimensional, maybe even the bulk of it. As Peter Maxwell Slattery says, he says like 90% of it is other dimensional. Only the bottom 10% is like nuts and bolts stuff. So, other dimensional consciousness related stuff. It gets pretty woo pretty quickly as you dive into UFOs. And I'm so glad that people like David Grusch are now talking about this, making it in some respects mainstream. BT says they are underground. There do seem to be elements of the phenomenon that are underground, and who knows, maybe they've been there for a long time. Some think they've been there forever, that they created us in life on Earth. I don't know. We need answers, guys. We need answers. But yeah, they seem to be underground. They seem to be under the sea. There are some people that say that there are different races that prefer to be under different things. There's one race that prefers to be under the deserts. There's one race that prefers to be under the sea. There's another race that prefers to be in the mountains. Interesting, right? Big if true. Love some answers. Love some corroboration on that. I would love a two-way ticket to any of those bases. No one-way ticket. Heiser Soze, which is a good name, by the way. In my opinion, way too many alleged species to all be from the same place with the same agenda. Yeah, it is. The abduction phenomenon is really interesting. It's a very important phenomenon because it involves so many people. If the Roper poll in the 90s is true with the later information supplied by David Jacobs, that implies that over 100 million people are experiencers of the abduction phenomenon. and not just now, but this is a generational thing, and they are being taken continuously throughout their lives, for the most part, without any sign. Right, their minds are wiped. There's no sign of it. They only know about this when there are marks on their bodies or strange dreams. Then they go get hypnotically regressed, and they find out some of the details about what happened to them. But the interesting thing, tying into your point, is that multiple races are doing this. The Nordics are doing it. The Greys are doing it. The reptilians are doing it. So yeah, they all have the same agenda, right? Abduction. And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? That's really the crux of the matter. I mean, that really is kind of key to this whole thing. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Are they tweaking us and evolving us over time as gardeners would tend to garden? Right? Maybe they're doing something spiritual. Is it something like that? People like Mary Rodwell and Barbara Lamb and Dolores Cannon have a very positive, rosy view of the abduction phenomenon. People like David Jacobs and Bud Hopkins don't. I'm neutral on it. I look at the evidence. Both of those silos of information come from very credible people, credible sources who have hypnotically regressed, thousands of experiencers. So there's a lot of information from credible sources that totally conflict with each other. So what do you do with that, right? Mary Rodwell says that David Jacobs is just looking at, to use an analogy, if there's a surgery and there's pain associated with the surgery, like an appendectomy, looking at the pain associated with that. And that's a very limited view, whereas it's actually helping that patient, right? Saving their lives. So, could it be something like that? We have to look at the broader view. Maybe. I would love for that to be the case. I would love for abductions not to be, so we don't have to ask that question. It's encouraging that the Edgar Mitchell Foundation, upon studying this, found that 80% of the participants of their polls, of their interviews, 80% of long-term experiencers of the abduction phenomenon had a favorable view of their experience with the phenomenon. So, is that Stockholm syndrome? Is that an evolving understanding of the phenomenon, an evolving relationship? Again, that's a key question. That's really like possibly the most important question. Is this? The abduction phenomenon is huge. It's global. It's been going on for generations. It's not a few military guys trying to sow fear of the phenomenon, as Stephen Greer would have it. They're not sowing fear because the participants' minds are wiped. Again, they're not sowing fear because when they recover their memories and respond to questionnaires, 80% of them have a favorable view. So Stephen Greer is just all wrong about that, and he's pushing disinformation, and that's unfortunate. He also seems to have agenda, a pro-alien or pro-ET agenda. And while I am in no way anti-ET or anti-alien, I try to be as objective as I can about it. My own experiences with the phenomenon and the greater phenomenon have all been very positive. And I really encourage people to go into contact and CE5 with love and light in their heart and openness in their heart, because there are huge, wonderful, beautiful elements of the phenomenon that we can interact with. And, whether there are darker elements as well, it may be that we can choose which elements, in some cases, not all cases, that we can interact with. Especially if you're going into this consciously and deliberately. You don't always get a choice in your interactions, but when you do, go into it with love and light and openness, and because we co-create so many of these experiences. A lot of this is consciousness related. Is that other dimensional? I wish I understood all of this better. If you guys do, let me know your thoughts. All right, moving on. Kill the Stigma. Christian says, underground, under the ocean, cloaked in the sky, far side of the moon, Mount Shasta, Skinwalker Ranch. I think it's SKW. What is that? I'm not sure what that is. They are freaking everywhere. They are freaking everywhere. YTT, aka Andy, says 7 minutes behind, but I have to say, new U.S. government coming with control of the House and Senate. New hearings coming. 2025 looks to be an interesting year. Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. Some people even think the open contact will begin, imminently. Some people don't even think it's going to wait until 2025 or 2026 or 7. Some think it's going to be 25. Some think it's going to be December. So we'll see. We'll see. Heiser Soze is, I think, with a link to something. Marcus, yeah, okay, y'all are talking with each other. Barath says, and Nazca Mummies is what's up next tomorrow, right? The 9th. Yeah, the Nazca Mummy hearing is on the 9th. I'm planning to live stream that. I'm in communication with one of the people Jaime Masan has put me in touch with that is going to give me the information to enable me to live stream the English dub of it. So, and hopefully they'll provide that, or if they don't, I can find it myself, hopefully. And I absolutely intend to live stream the Peru hearing, which will hopefully go over better than that one hearing that took like 40 minutes to get started, and then the translation was all wonky. I think that was the one in LA. Christian said, yeah, because if I have to stall for 40 minutes, I mean, I can do it. But okay, Christian says, if I had a wish, it would be a warning 3 months before, so I can take out loans, max out all my credit cards and get ready for the upcoming event, right? Heiser Soze says, more people under oath is important. Hit that like button, Marcus says. And if you're just joining us, this is Jack with Cosmic Road with a great crowd. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the bell to be notified of future videos. If you want me to see your comment right away, leave a super chat or a super thanks, whatever they call it, because then it will appear in bold on my screen, and I will see your comment right away and be able to read to it. I'm trying to get to as many comments as I can, but I'm going to miss a few by accident or time. So if you want to be sure that I read your comment, leave a super chat or a super thanks. Ben says, you would think the things he's worked on for years would take precedence over a trip. Yeah, right, Chris Mellon. You would think that he could reschedule his vacation to appear before Congress. But, it's his business, and he's got his reasons. I don't know if it's vacation reasons or if there's some other reason. But, it is what it is. All right, I want to share with you a new UFO video that's been making the rounds. This is reported by multiple people from alien UFO sightings. A Mexican TV station has released footage of a UFO sucking a human being into the UFO through anti-gravity. The TV station announcer said the alien abductions are a frequent and frightening occurrence in Mexico. Well, they're frequent and frightening everywhere.
¿Vale? Alucinante abducción captado en México.
Yeah, and you can see the guy being beamed up.
Si tienes miedo, por favor, no mires este vídeo, ¿vale? Alucinante abducción captado en México. Esto es una barbaridad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, guys. I think this is too good to be true. I'm very skeptical of this footage. What do you think, guys? Could this be a legit footage of an alien abduction? It can't be, right? Too good to be true. But of course, that's what we all say, right? I mean, the footage is either too fuzzy and people complain about shooting it with a potato, or else it's too clear and we say it's too good to be true. So, who knows, guys? But that could be legit. It's possible. But I'm very skeptical of that footage. I do think it's too good to be true. I mean, it's perfectly centered. The guy goes right up in this perfect flying saucer with a, but they do look like saucers. I mean, that is a classic shape of a saucer. And they do abduct people, and that's probably kind of what it looks like. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. Let's see. Marcus says, LOL, I first thought it must be a cruise. The Chris Mellon's vacation. Coin Exchange says paranormal technologies. Yeah, other dimensional technology and paranormal technologies. That's a big part of this. Very interesting stuff that there could be technology existing in other dimensions that we can't even understand, but interacting with us and in very important ways. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy, but it's a thing. Chris Mellon says a Christian talks to Congress every time he speaks anywhere. And Chris is a gatekeeper who wants partial disclosure, NHI, no leaks about any sensitive programs. Yeah, I mean, I think Chris is trying to get disclosure out there, but I think you're right. Maybe he doesn't want to rip the can off the worms completely. He wants a few worms getting out there at a steady pace. I think that's what Chris wants. Don Henderson says, maybe that they walk among us. Well, they seem to. According to a lot of the research, they absolutely seem to walk among us, which is freaky, but seems to be a thing. Heiser Soze says, emerald tablets for the win. That's right. Thoth, Hermes. That is the idea that Thoth or Hermes could actually be real is just nuts. But, Stefano, Matthias de Stefano says that he actually met Thoth, aka Hermes. I can't pronounce his last name, in his previous life in Atlantis. Matthias, who I love, I hope to meet him someday. I have a friend that got to meet him, and I was invited, but it was in another state. It was actually a really interesting thing. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it. It involves opening or not opening portals, and the Native American elders involved in that. I'm not sure if that's really something that I can really speak to. But yeah, he was in that, and I was involved. I was invited to that, but it's a whole thing I have to go through. You got the Indian elders. There's cool. They do vision quests without any plant medicine. I'm going on my next ayahuasca ceremony or a retreat, a 3-day ceremony, in early December, which is right around the time that Cliff High says the S is going to hit this fan. The Cliff High Joe Rogan prediction, which he made in 2009. If you know the Cliff High story, he uses bots to scour the internet. And the idea is that the collective unconscious of humanity is reflected in our conversations online, right? And he is able to use his bots to basically decipher the collective unconscious and to be able to predict future events. And I don't know what his accuracy rating is, but apparently he has some accuracy anyway. And he was able to see the Joe Rogan Trump podcast. And he says like 47 to 49 days after that point, we are going to enter sci-fi world. Sci-fi world is coming around, I think that would be like December 5th-ish, which would be the weekend that I'm going on the ayahuasca retreat. So that's going to be a very memorable ceremony. I don't know if there's really going to be UFO attacks and jets fighting with UFOs and all of that, or what exactly sci-fi world looks like. But at the very least, Cliff High seems to think there will be contact. There will be mass open contact. And the trigger event was that podcast. So we'll see. We'll see, guys. But yeah, getting back to Matthias, I love Matthias Stefano, who met Thoth, who was a high priest in Atlantis, according to Matthias. And after Atlantis fell, he boogied off to Egypt and became, the great guru in Egypt. Who knows, guys? Who knows? It's a crazy world we're living in. We are living in a world with giants and aliens and magic and other dimensional beings and angelic entities like the lady, who may or may not be an incarnation of the divine feminine. We live in a crazy world, guys. We live in Middle Earth, guys. We live in freaking Middle Earth, and we have been lied to and brainwashed to believe we live in a mundane reality. We do not live in a mundane reality, guys. We don't live in a mundane reality by any stretch of the imagination. That is disinformation. That is brainwashing. The CIA is part of that. The clamp down of the UFO information in the 50s. But I'm sure it goes way beyond that. The Vatican didn't help any with their purge of witches, did they? I mean, they were doing real stuff, hands-on healing. Who knows what lore and information and knowledge and abilities were lost with the purge of those people that were practicing real modalities of energy work and whatever else they were working with. Now, could there be some that were working with dark modalities that were, as we might term, witches in the way that we think of witches? Maybe, but there were also so many good ones. I have no doubt that were just doing healing and wonderful works that were purged, and a lot of that information was lost. It's very sad. So, whoever was doing it in other religions were doing the same thing. I don't want to single out any particular person. It's not like any religion, any huge religion is pushing this stuff and getting this stuff out there, except maybe, Buddhists and Hindus kind of do, right? They kind of lean into that way more than other faiths do. So, which is where the Western world got a lot of this, is the hippie age, the new age movement, where they kind of synthesized and incorporated Eastern beliefs with Western beliefs. And it became this interesting fusion of ideas. And I think that's a beautiful thing. We're rediscovering lost knowledge that some people in the East have been practicing all these many years, but I don't think they have really disseminated that knowledge out there. The monks and so on may be practicing some of these techniques, but it's not like they've turned, China into a bunch of Jedi, right? But we're all Jedi, guys. We are all Jedi. So, yeah. Let's see. No problem, Christian. Congratulations on your podcast. Everybody go check out Kill the Stigma podcast, Christian Morales' new podcast. Chameleon UK says, how about Tim Taylor testifying? Oh, I love that idea, Chameleon UK. Yeah, Tim Taylor, aka the Dragon. That's what Chris Bloso calls him. Apparently, that's his nickname at NASA, is the Dragon. Absolutely. Tim Taylor should be testifying. Genius, inventor, patent holder. God knows what he's involved with. The secret stuff, right? Man, I would love for Tim Taylor to write a book, a book that is not bound by any laws of classification. I want to know what Tim knows, man. Yeah, wow, to be a fly on Tim's wall. Absolutely. Chameleon says that would be the person Matthew Pines hinted about, and why Corbell is so excited. Wow, you think so? You think that's what Matthew Pines' big information about the coup de grace whistleblower that was going to come out of the woodwork and blow the lid off this whole thing? You think that was Tim Taylor? Where are you getting that information, Chameleon? Because that is juicy. That is super juicy. If you could let me know your source on that, I would love to investigate that more, because we need more from Tim. We need more from Tim. Power says, wish there were more whistleblowers at the hearing. Was disappointed to hear who's attended. We need new people. Yeah, I share your disappointment, but at least this continues the conversation and the public eye and gets this information out there. And we're dealing with really credible people. And also, who's to say that we won't have some surprise witnesses appear? Because they've been trying to keep these names under wraps. So, they don't want people getting scared away like they were last time. Even NASA was involved in scaring witnesses away from the last UFO hearing. Yeah, that's right. NASA is in this deep. They have been covering stuff up for many, many years, and God knows what they've really been up to. Terrence says, holy S, Jack, Captain Jack on the nighttime attack. Love it. Jock the Ripper says, I'd prefer some of Grusch. Yeah, man, we all want that. We all want Grusch's 40 witnesses. Damn right, man. Damn right. Christian says, did you hear Lou Elizondo got asked in one of his book tours recently about Immaculate? He put his hand up before the guy could finish and got very serious and said, I'm not going there. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder what Lou knows about Immaculate Constellation. Sounds like he may be forbidden from saying anything about it, which is unfortunate. So, if this information is under wraps or forbidden, I guess that's why it had to leak out through reporters. And we haven't seen, well, maybe we will. Maybe we'll get somebody testifying before Congress about it. But you have a good point. I mean, that this could be forbidden knowledge, that it had to leak out because it couldn't get out under normal circumstances. Harrison says Bledsoe is going to be there, though. Is he? Is he going to be in the audience? Maybe he will. Maybe Chris Bledsoe, sitting in the audience at that hearing on November 13th, will secretly do a little C5 and summon in some orbs, or maybe the lady. The lady is coming, guys. The lady is coming. Jock the River says also Herrera would be good. Oh yeah, that'd be amazing. I would love to see Mike Herrera before Congress. That'd be gangbusters. With the story of Indonesian. Yeah, that would be amazing if Mike Herrera went before Congress. Can you imagine him talking about the control group, recruiting maybe forcibly people from other countries, developing countries, into their psionic program to work with alien technology and shoot down UFOs? Can you imagine that entering the congressional record? Wow, that'd be crazy. What would the follow-up questions be, right? Well, Nancy Mace is God bless her. She asked some great questions, but what would her questions to that be? How do you reply to that? Troy says, these congressional hearings remind me of Jon Snow trying to convince Cersei the Night King is real. Yeah. Might be, man, might be. But, we've got bodies, y'all. We've got bodies. We do. And it's interesting. Okay, here's a question for you guys. We've got the hearing on November 13th in Congress, but just a few days before November 9th, we have the hearing in Peru. Is it possible the hearing on the 13th could reference the hearing on the 9th, right? I mean, we have it, the Nazca mummies validated in some respects, right, by appearing before the Mexican Congress and now the Peruvian Congress. You have multiple countries, Congresses, taking the mummies seriously, to some extent. Would that be enough ammunition for somebody to bring that up before the U.S. Congress? Because we've got bodies, y'all. We've got non-human bodies. David Grusch talks about biologics. We've got biologics. We know what they look like. We know some of their DNA. We know their morphology. We know their physiology. Some of them have eggs or fetuses inside them. They're, different species. Yeah, I mean, some of them were egg-laying beings. Some of them would have delivered a live birth, like Montserrat. And I believe there's one other human-sized one that's been recovered that has a fetus. It's incredible. And there's others that, like Maria, it was thought at first and may still be thought to be androgynous, which would be really interesting if true. That would mean she would have an entirely different physiology than Montserrat. They're both, similar beings, similar size, human beings, human-sized beings. Although they do have slightly different physiology, so they seem to belong to different species or subspecies of something. But yeah, we have multiple varieties of non-humans found in Peru. We've got their bodies. We've got credible doctors and scientists studying them. We have congresses of various countries taking them seriously. We may have a museum dedicated to them in the near future, which would be amazing. Makes me a little nervous if the Ministry of Culture is involved in that, but still a really amazing development. We've got Dr. John McDowell, who won the award that is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in forensic science, that has studied and validated and authenticated these bodies, or at least some of them. His investigation into the bodies is only preliminary yet, but it is ongoing, and we are going to get more in-depth analysis from Dr. McDowell. We have two peer-reviewed papers of Maria. We've got peer-reviewed papers of non-humans from Peru. Why are not more people talking about this? This is huge. This is like the biggest thing ever. We've got bodies, y'all. We've got bodies of non-humans that have been studied by real, credible individuals. We need to get this information out there. They've been studied by Japan. They've been studied by Canada. They've been studied by Russia, obviously Peru and Mexico. And I believe there's been some other countries involved as well. This is game changing, world changing information. And it needs to get out there, guys. The Nazca mummies are amazing. But will anybody touch that on November 13th or going forward in Congress? When will the mainstream UFO disclosure efforts get involved in that? They seem like they're very kind of proprietary about their information. They're trying to get out their information, which is very important information about UFO crash retrievals and reverse engineering. But they're not giving us bodies. So, I hope that Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo and the others involved in the mainstream efforts at UFO disclosure, including Danny Sheehan and others, open their horizons a bit and take those bodies seriously and get that information out there, because we don't need Congress. We don't need the president to give us UFO disclosure. We've got it already. But if a tree falls in the forest and nobody is there to hear it, doesn't make a sound, because we've got a giant UFO shaped tree that has fallen in the forest in Peru, and very few people seem to be hearing it. It's a damn shame, guys. All right, if you're just joining me, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. I'll talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you want me to see your comment right away, or for sure, please leave a super chat or a super thanks, not only to encourage me to do live streams like this, but also so that I will see your comment right away and get to it, because I'm trying to get to all the comments, but I'm missing some, and I'm probably not going to have time to do all of them. So, this will probably be my last call for a surefire comment being read. I'm running out of water. So, so get in your questions now, guys. All right. The Shermanator says Q-type. I missed the Q-type. Christian says, what if Grusch is testifying, but it's supposed to be secret? That just crossed my mind, but I don't know anything. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's possible. That's totally possible. Now, let's see what Mike Disclosure had to say. Let's see. Mike said, hang on, let me get to it. Here it is. David Grusch testifying at the UAP hearing on November 13th. This has been confirmed by congressional committee members. This might be the shot in the arm that UAP Disclosure needs right now. So, according to Mike, it's not under the radar that congressional committee members have confirmed this, and others seem to be confirming this as well. But others are saying that not so fast, that's a bogus story. So, we're still in the fog of war on the David Grusch at the UFO hearing issue. We'll see how that plays out if he actually does show up. If it was supposed to be secret, why would congressional members be reporting on it? Or did they? We'll see. Terrence says, I'm ready for Grusch Hour 2. I love it. Grusch Hour 2. That's nice. Christian says, that's it. Oh, my God. Okay. Oh, we got a super chat. All right. Toxic Fart says, Jack, I love you, man, but say it with me now. Nuclear, not nuclear. Okay. Nuclear, 2 syllables. Shouldn't it be 3 syllables? Nuclear. Isn't it 3 syllables? All right, but there, thank you for the super chat, Toxic Fart, and thank you for the tips at pronunciation. My pronunciation is always bad. When I was a kid, I actually had a speech impediment. Some would say that I still might have a speech impediment. I can't even pronounce impediment. Me being a Texan plus a recovering speech impediment child, nuclear may forever be beyond me, but we'll see. We'll see. Hey, John Bell has joined the chat. What's up, friends? Nice. John Bell, we talk about Chris Bledsoe, but another channel you should check out is Real Florida UFO, where John goes out pretty much every night and does CE5 and asks for contact and gets it in a variety of different formats. He's got little amorphous or translucent orbs, that I think of as category 2 orbs. He's got, more structured craft flying in the sky. He's got fast moving objects. Also, he has other phenomenon where the UFOs seem to mess with his equipment at times or respond to what he's saying or doing. It's interactive with John. Just fantastic stuff, and he puts this up for us nightly. He just crossed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so let's make it 2,000, guys. Let's make it 10,000. Everybody, go check out John's channel. Just fantastic stuff. And of course, I guess the star of the show is Tinkerbell, which is his regularly recurring UFO that appears almost, I don't know, nightly. I don't want to jinx it, but appears often. This amorphous, translucent orb that, although seemingly, more phantasmal, seems to have weight to it. It seems like it was probably the object that struck his truck. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but it struck his multi-ton truck and rattled it. So even though it seems more ghostly or phantasmal, it's got mass. Something's going on with that thing. Orbs are weird. Unidentified Arkansas phenomenon says, "Hey from Arkansas." Hey. Chameleon says, "How about Tim Tyler testifying?" Okay, we've done that one. Let me. Okay. I've gotten off. Lawrence Spencer wrote the book about the alien interview. Now, is that the guy that hates John's guts? Because there is a guy that totally hates Jon Stewart's guts and is always denouncing him on Twitter. Is that Lawrence Spencer? I haven't read his book, but I'd be curious to see what you think about it. Super Crazy Movie Geek says, "Do you think they will discuss the connection between UFOs and Bigfoot?" They should. I mean, there is a connection between UFOs and Bigfoot. I used to think Bigfoot was so stupid and so silly. It was a kind of a fun part of, popular culture, but ultimately it was kind of a silly thing until I did the research. And the research on Bigfoot is actually pretty solid. And there's very credible people that have seen it and various other evidences that Bigfoot's a thing. Bigfoot's real, and it is absolutely connected with UFOs. Bigfoot is not just some lost primate that we haven't discovered yet. There's a lot more going on with Bigfoot. He is other dimensional or paranormal or quantum or something. He can phase in and out of reality. He has been seen by experiencers aboard UFOs. In connection with UFOs. Bigfoot sightings sometimes coincide with UFO sightings within a day or two. Bigfoot's wild, guys. Bigfoot's wild. Oh, Toxic Fart has another one. Okay. Thank you, Toxic. Now I feel like a bully. I'm sorry. Did you see the video on Casper Site's channel with the military members discussing different alien races and fighting reptilians? No, I didn't. And you're not a bully at all, man. I make fun of my own pronunciation. It's a thing, guys. It's real. The struggle is real. When I was a kid, when I had that issue, and they would make me do like the exercises, Lizzie leaps the lizards in Lima or whatever like that. They referred to my condition as lazy lips. That was my condition. I'm so lazy, even my lips are lazy. So it's kind of funny. Let's see. Casper Site's channel talking about military members discussing different alien races and fighting reptilians. Now, is that the briefing? There was the gentleman giving a briefing, then he was talking about some pretty wild stuff. Is that the one you're talking about? Because I actually covered that briefing some time back. Yeah, I was on this months ago. But I'm not sure if that's the one that you're talking about, but that has been making the rounds recently. So I wonder if that's what you're talking about. And if you're not talking about that, if you're talking about something else, let me know, because I would love to see it. I guess I need to go on Casper site and find out. But yeah, that was a juicy briefing that guy gave. But interesting information comes out of the military and from the intelligence community. We have that whistleblower guy, that Charles guy, that has some really amazing information. And I've even seen that backed up by others. But is that information legit? Is that real? Or is there disinformation that is being put out there? Now, I'm not saying that he is in any way, part of that. But could he be, passing on some BS information? Because there is disinformation floating around out there that the intelligence or that the UFO control group has put out. Lonnie says, go towards some diapers for formula. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that, Lonnie. I do. Benny appreciates that. I got him right here. Hey, Benny, you got some new diapers? Man. He's taking a nap. Okay. Thank you, Benny. Yeah. And thank you, Lonnie. I really appreciate that. All right. Let's see. Yeah, but man, they're not going to talk about Bigfoot. To get back to your question, super crazy movie geek. I mean, they should talk about Bigfoot. That's kind of an important thing, right? An important part of American culture and world culture that is be confirmed as a reality. One of our modern myths, and even it goes back a while, really, that we can confirm as legit. And if we can make Americans, understand that some of our mythology is based on real stuff, imagine the doors of consciousness that could open up. I think that one reason Native Americans and people south of the border see and experience more of the phenomenon than your typical American is because their minds are way more open. They've been living with the land and connection with the phenomenon and the greater phenomenon with spirit openly, and it's part of their culture for going back, countless years. And Americans and Westerners, we don't have that, and we have become disconnected from that. But if we start allowing ourselves to broaden our minds and think that, hey, some aspects of our mythology are based on real things. I really think that stuff like that could, be a little pebbles in an avalanche that have broadened people's horizon and lead to more open contact. And we could have more of a relationship with, the earth and with the phenomenon in a way that we don't have now. And yeah, that's, seems awfully grandiose talking about Bigfoot. But it is a non-human being interacting with UFOs. That's other dimensional. It's pretty grandiose already. I mean, we have this goofy idea about Bigfoot, but it's not really that goofy. They are real beings with real souls, and probably they're a complex culture and cultures and races and histories. Yeah, I would love to understand that stuff. Sunny Shore says Melon is rich as hell. He can take a holiday anytime. Yeah, he is from the Melon family, and he is pretty loaded. They are powerful elites, which is one reason why he's so cool. Is he can use that power and that juice to get stuff done, but also because he is coming from this elite family. He is really, in my mind, a maverick by being brazenly talking about this crazy stuff and pushing things forward. So, all love to Chris. Joseph says, is Lou testifying for sure? I don't think anything is for sure yet. Seeing is believing. When, these people go before the stand or, whatever we're calling it, I'll believe it. So I'm not making any major commitments. No predictions, but that is what we've been hearing from multiple sources, that Lou will be there, that Tim Gallaudet will be there. And according to a few sources now, David Grusch will be there. Will that actually materialize? Some are saying not so fast. That's not a thing. So, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Sunny Shore says time sucks. Okay. Yeah, I guess. Terrence. Okay. Terrence Will says, Captain Jack, what do you think we will find out before the end of 2024? Will we ever know the truth? Well, I'm really curious to know if Cliff High's prediction is on the level. Will we enter sci-fi world around December 5th when I will be going to my next ayahuasca retreat? That's going to be a pretty insane retreat if all of a sudden the world goes insane. Yeah. So, but am I predicting that? No, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just on the edge of my seat, just like you guys are. Alpha Daddy says the 13th, or is the hearing the 9th? But that would be Saturday. Yeah, I was confused about that too. Apparently, the hearing in Peru is going to be on the 9th, but that's Saturday. I didn't think Congress in any country worked on Saturday. So, yeah, I mean, if that is the incorrect date, well, that's the date that has been shared. So, if you see some clarification on that, let me know. But I am planning to live stream on Saturday about the Peruvian hearing. So if that turns out to be the wrong date, it's going to be funny. Let's see. We Are There says live show. Yes, live show. Joke says, that was a joke, damn it, Jack. Embarrassed. I'm sorry, Christian. I messed up your punchline. I am so sorry. I apologize. Everybody go read Christian's post because I totally butchered it. It was a funny. For Frank Einstein says Mellon is the best dressed disclosure agent. Yeah, he is. Lucas says, I believe in space travel. Me too. Power says phenomena always says there's an upcoming event around the corner, and then it never happens. Near-death experiences can be like that too. It's trying to keep us hopeful, but no savior is coming, I feel. Near-death experiences are crazy, man. Studying near-death experiences really opened me up to a lot of stuff, and my own experiences really began to ramp up around that time. I don't know if it's because of my consciousness was expanding for studying near-death experiences, or if it was, doing Reiki at that time, meditation, ghost hunting, or just, mixture of all of the above. But during that 2 or 3 year period, my experiences just really ramped up. And when I stopped ghost hunting, when I stopped doing Reiki, when my class ended, my experiences went down, and I'm trying to get that back, half-assedly, admittedly. But near-death experiences. I encourage basically everybody to study near-death experiences, mind-expanding, trippy stuff. People experience some crazy stuff on the other side. And yeah, it'll blow your mind, guys. And it may change how you think about things. Ralph says, what you hate and what you believe in are irrelevant to the truth of the matter. That's true, man. I hate time travel. I think time travel is stupid, but it seems to be a thing, guys. It seems to be a thing, which is so annoying. Trying to make sense out of all of this. I want things to be logical and sequential. A leads to B leads to C. And then, we're at M right now, and we can look back on D and see that led to E. But you can't do that with time travel. Actually, Z created E, and then E time traveled into the future to create X, who then time traveled back to create B. I hate time travel. But apparently it's a thing. So Ralph is totally right. Adman the Adler lab rat says, is there any info on Mr. Herrera's pseudo-historical story status? No. Yeah, he's involved in the creation of a book that is, I think, a novel, but it's a novel based on his real experiences, real experiences. And I read the first few chapters of that, and I haven't seen any other word about that. I was talking to Mike about coming on the show again a few months ago, and we communicate with each other every now and then. So I probably need to ask him about that, because that's a good question. What is the status of that book? Good question, Ed, man. Christian says, LOL, Jack, my high school diploma comment of credibility was a joke. Yeah, man, I'm sorry I messed up your joke, man. My bad. Style Dutch says, what you think of Phil Schneider about a shootout under Dulce? Um, Phil Schneider, I don't think he killed himself. I really don't. So I think Phil knew some stuff and was involved in some stuff. I absolutely do believe that. But he does seem to have been an individual with some issues. And some of his stories conflict with each other. So where the truth lies, for me, is impossible to figure out on the Phil Schneider story. But yeah, dumbs are a thing. Multiple people seem to have met their ends researching dumbs. We do seem to be working with beings, and some of those beings seem to be coming and going or even residing in the deep underground military bases, the dumbs. So I think some elements of Phil Schneider's story are legit. And I think that he was probably taken out. David Grusch said they take people out or have taken people out. So, I think that sadly, Phil Schneider was one of those people. But what the ultimate truth of his story is, I don't know, guys. I don't know. Night Gazer says one race prefers to be in DC. Talking about different races and how they prefer to be in different places. One under deserts, one in mountains, one under the sea. Night Gazer says one in DC. Like it. Sheila Toole says alien interview book. Lauren Spencer. Yep, very good. Story about Matilda O'Donnell. That is ringing a bell. Oh, the McElroy / nurse at Roswell that interviewed the alien for days. Oh, that alien interview, not Jon Stewart's alien interview, but the EB or EB1 or whatever we're calling that alien. Because I've read multiple different accounts of that being and its life for a few years at Area 51. And, her story is one of those stories. But it conflicts with one or two other stories that have some different information. Matilda O'Donnell. So, again, getting solid information out of this stuff is really hard. So much of this stuff conflicts with each other. But I am persuaded there was a crash or multiple crashes, at Roswell or near Roswell. And that there was at least one living survivor of that ship or those ships. And it did survive for a while at Area 51. What information they got out of it, I don't know. Did that lead to the contact that the UFO control group seems to have had all these years? Or did that come later? Did ET phone home and that's when they came? Guys, I would love the answers. I've seen the Matilda O'Donnell information. I have not read the book. But yeah, I'm sure I'm missing large pieces of that puzzle. Lucas says there is no truth. Well, okay. I can kind of vibe with that. No Style Dutch says there is a truth, even if we don't know it yet. Okay, I like that too. Super Crazy Movie Geek says the U.S. hearing on UAPs is on Wednesday, November 13th. The Peru hearing on the Nazca mummies is indeed on Saturday, November 9th. Well, that's good because that's when I'm planning to live stream it. So I won't be live streaming nothing. Joe says, how's the baby going? Baby is doing very good. Guys, I'm like an hour behind on all your comments. I'm just noticing this. Wow. Okay. If you really want me to see your comments, super chat, super thanks, because I will instantly see your comments instead of being an hour behind. But that I said last call was last call last time around, but that was before I realized I was literally an hour behind on all your comments. Maybe I should go to the bottom. I don't know. Okay. I'll just go to the longest comment. Nevada Laverock, which is a cool name, says skeptical of the abduction. It is in a very occupied area, and the size of the person would be huge using the building as perspective. Yeah, I agree. That particular UFO abduction video, I think is probably BS. I mean, it's perfectly centered. It's just too perfect. Chameleon says that was actually a cow abduction. Okay. It looked more vertical, maybe a cow on its side. Martin says, good evening, Jack. Hey, Martin, how's it going, man? Deconnected says, melon bank. Yeah, the melons are super powerful. Let's see. Melon Bank walks among us. Yes, the Melon Bank does walk among us. But do they run among us? There's a new documentary coming that is going to talk about where we really come from, and it's supposed to be mind melting. Well, that sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to that. If you can name that documentary, I'd love to have an eye out for that. Catkins, hey Catkins. Catkins says Chris and company want the type of disclosure that maintains the same power structure. Yeah, something like that. I mean, I think they do want disclosure, but yeah, it's like you say, they're going to maintain the status quo as they go, which may be kind of the idea, right? The reason why they're able to get the stuff out there is because they've made a deal with these guys. Hey, we need to get this information out there, but we'll do it in a way that safeguards you, right? So let us get some information out there, and we've got your back. So I think that is what Chris Mellon and his faction probably are doing. I think you're 100% right, Catkins. Mystical Wonderland says, not important enough to hold off the vacation. I know that was some and crazy important vacation, Mystical Wonderland. No, I'm not going to appear before Congress. I'm going on vacation. Where are they going? Maybe they're going in a UFO to Venus or something, right? That might be worth missing Congress. Night Gazer, what's the name of it, Terrence? Peyote? I'm missing your conversations, guys. Jack Volcani says, so Grusch is back. Well, that is what multiple people are saying. Again, I'm, seeing is believing. I'll believe it when they sit down at Congress. Mystical Wonderland says it might be a wedding of one of his kids. Hey, that's another thing I said, is there may be a date that is set in stone that they can't miss. And that would absolutely qualify. D-Connected says his tech is valid. I don't know whose tech is valid, but that sounds very ominous. His tech is valid. Roland Gibbs, apparently Grusch is not testifying. Yeah, so some people are saying he is testifying. Some people are saying he is not testifying. We will see on the 13th. There are legal, you guys are talking about mescaline. I've never done mescaline. I'll be curious to do that. I have done peyote, but never done mescaline. It's the best. JJ, I'm reading your quote, your comments out of context, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about there. Is that like a Disney ride? Okay, maybe I need to move on. All right. Chuck McCullough. Yes, that was yes, thank you. Expanded knowledge. That, I believe, was David Grusch's attorney, or maybe still is. And I'm like an hour behind or 45 minutes behind your comments. I'm trying to skip ahead. Night Gazer says he's ready, or she's ready for, I am ready for some fundamental change. Super Crazy Movie Geek says werewolves. Yes, indeed. Okay, all right, there you go. Jay Stratton going before Congress, testifying about werewolves, right? I mean, that is a thing that could actually happen in our reality. Jay Stratton, former leader of the UAP task force involved in ATIP and God knows what else, OSAP. Who knows what all Jay's been involved in. Certainly somebody that could be called to testify before Congress, theoretically, right? And if Lou can, absolutely Jay can. So are they going to ask him about werewolves? If he goes before Congress, if he ever goes before Congress, are they going to ask about the scary wolf-like two-legged upright being with the glowing red eyes that was in his backyard? This hitchhiker from Skinwalker Ranch that was seen by Jay Stratton multiple times, members of his family, people they knew. It even seemed to skip people. They called it like the infectious model of the hitchhiker effect, because some people would be carriers of the hitchhiker effect. They wouldn't experience it themselves. They would pass it on. So, your neighbor wouldn't see the dog man, but his neighbor would see the dog man, or his cousin, whatever. It was crazy. Yeah. So Jay Stratton experiencing this werewolf, dog man, skinwalker figure at his house, which I imagine must have been pretty scary. That is a real thing that happened. I believe, Jay. And, George Knapp was saying they were seeing skinwalkers at Skinwalker Ranch so often, or detecting them, that they could even plot their migration patterns of skinwalkers, aka dogmen, aka werewolves, whatever we're calling them, right? Migration patterns of skinwalkers. That is according to George Knapp, Colm Kelleher, and James Lukatsky in their book Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. That's insane. These beings exist. It could be possible that Jay Stratton, if he ever goes before Congress, could be asked about his experience with these beings. Wouldn't that be nuts? I mean, I don't think we're going to get Bigfoot, but it is theoretically possible that we could get Congress talking about skinwalkers from a credible man who has actually experienced one or more. That is a thing that could happen in our reality, guys. It's insane. Let's see. Martin says we are definitely bringing in a new era in ufology. We've only got to keep the momentum up. Yep, I think that's what this hearing is all about. If we don't get David Grusch's 40 plus whistleblowers, that's a damn shame, but at least we're keeping the momentum going. We're keeping the conversation going. Dupree's says, did you hear about the Navy doc about program from the early 60s to have disinformation push away any proof of UAP? No, I didn't hear about that. If you can provide a link to that, that'd be amazing. So the Navy doctor, or are you saying the Navy documentary? You say Navy doc. But yeah, it sounds fantastic. I have no doubt that is a reality. The Navy has been involved in UFOs for a long time, surely. They are now, if nothing else. Shermanator says 100% ancient. The being, yeah, I imagine he means the beings on Earth. Lonnie McVeigh says, who else? The more the merrier. Night Gazer says, I'm a Wookiee. D-Connected says, dignity for all. I like that. Ems Will says, our ancestors were way smarter than we give them credit for. 100% Ems. JJ says, the Tibetan Chandrama, meaning Skywalker, may have originated from the Sanskrit Kakara of the same meaning, a term from the, I want to butcher that name, but one of the Tantras. Fascinating stuff. I really need to learn more about the Tantras and Tibetan beliefs, and also Hinduism. I've experienced the reality of, at least one element of Hinduism myself. I had a Kundalini awakening a few years back, and it was an amazing experience. Pulses up the spine, seizures, an experience that lasted for 5 hours. It was an incredible experience. It was fantastic, guys. I recommend Kundalini Awakenings for everybody. But, I didn't earn that experience. I wasn't sitting on a mountaintop meditating for 20 years. That was a gift from the beings, whoever is working with me. It was a fantastic, amazing gift. I experienced, pretty cool thing, guys. Pretty cool thing. And, that is, the Kundalini awakenings are from various traditions. There's a Buddhist tradition that deals with that. There's even a Muslim tradition that deals with that. But it seems like it originates with Hinduism. So I really want to know what more Hinduism has to offer as far as understanding the phenomenon. The greater phenomenon, as I call it, not simply the UFO phenomenon. Let's see. Deconnected says, new people with balls. I'm missing the context there. Lonnie says, 2 a day. He's back. Support Jack. Thank you, Lonnie. Kakin says, never a straight answer. That is right. That is NASA. JJ says, in my opinion, Congress will not deliver anything but more Blue Book 2.0. Well, Arrow is definitely going to deliver nothing but Blue Book 2.0, unless the new director, Dr. Kozlowski, is different from, the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. But there do seem to be sincere, dedicated congresspeople trying to push this forward. So I would push back on that a little bit. I am more optimistic about Congress getting involved, sincerely and honestly, trying to push for answers. And I think they are. And I think they are. I'm more optimistic about that anyway. But, I understand if you're skeptical. At this point, we all have good reason to be skeptical of the government and their relationship to UFOs. Marcus says, is the Immaculate Constellation witness supposed to testify? I would love that. It's one of the, I talked about that a little while ago. It's unclear to me if they're allowed to talk about that. People like George Knapp and others are now talking about that only because this information had gotten out there. But it didn't get there through direct channels. It didn't get through, it wasn't David Grusch being cleared by Dobster to talk about that, right? It was a whistleblower going to a reporter, right? Or something like that. So, but has that whistleblower testified to Congress? The Immaculate Constellation whistleblower, I forget that part of the story, just speaking, off the cuff. And so if you guys remember that, let me know, because if he has spoken to Congress, that would be really interesting, behind closed doors, of course. Harrison said Bledsoe said he'd be there on Instagram. Yeah, that's great that he's going to be there. Bledsoe should testify. He shouldn't just be there. Night Gator says, I like seeing the Mexican flag up there. Mexico is awesome. Mexico is awesome. I am a Texan and I love Mexico. Let's see. Kakin says, yes, it's forbidden to tell the truth that people have the right to know. Isn't that the truth? But you are allowed to lie and keep information people are entitled to away from them. Something so very wrong there. Damn right. Lucas says, Nancy has some great something or other. I don't know what you could be talking about, Lucas. Radio Wall of Sound says Chris Bledsoe should provide some orbs of Congress. Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? That would be a nice icebreaker. Okay, guys, my voice seems to be kind of losing my voice here. So if you have any last questions, we'll do another 5 minutes. I'm going to get to as many of your questions as I can. I'm so far behind you guys, so super thanks, all that kind of stuff. If you want me to see your questions, for sure. 5 more minutes. Now, Kakin says mainstream media back mainstream science and mainstream politics and mainstream religion. That's why you won't read anything about peer-reviewed papers on the mummies. Yeah, it's a damn shame people aren't, that should be front page news everywhere. We have bodies, multiple bodies, maybe 100 or 200 bodies or body parts of non-humans from Peru that have been studied by credible doctors and scientists, award-winning forensics experts, the chief pathologist of the Mexican Navy, medically trained professors of credible institutions. And they've all authenticated these bodies as genuine tridactyl beings of unknown origin, with interesting, strange morphologies and physiologies. Some lay eggs, some would have given live births, but they are genuinely tridactyl, three-fingered, three-toed beings with elongated heads. The human-sized ones, their brains would have been 30% larger than a human's. They are not the products of skull binding. They are genuinely elongated skull beings that weren't simply elongated skull human-like beings as found in Paracas. These have different physiologies. The Paracas beings, definitely not your run-of-the-mill human, definitely some hybridization or something going on there. And that's a really interesting idea, is that I interviewed the gentleman that I'm forgetting his name offhand. Remind me if you remember it. But he wrote the book where he had gone to South America and Mexico, talking to the locals about their mythologies, and doing some research of his own and trying to understand the Nazca mummies from the point of view of what has been recorded historically in those areas and what the locals have been saying all these years. And his impression was that the Nazca mummy beings were interbreeding with humans. So could that be where we get the Paracas skull beings who seem more human, but seem to have the elongated skulls of the Nazca beings. Yeah. I don't know why that didn't occur to me earlier, but I think that is bang. I mean, that's pretty good, guys. It's a pretty good theory, I think. I'm tooting my own horn here, I know, but Paracas is very close to Nazca. So it would make sense if there were some interbreeding going on there with survivable children. I don't know how they could survive. We've got three-toed, three-fingered beings with different physiologies interbreeding with humans. You wouldn't think that would be a match that would work. But hey, if there's some common genetics involved, if the Maria type beings were made with human genetics in part, maybe and also who knows what technology they have to facilitate this sort of thing. They're according to his information, I want to say his name was David. I'm blanking on his name. Really great guest. Go check out that interview. But his information was that they were interbreeding with the humans. So could that be responsible for the Paracas skull beings? Now, maybe not, because the Paracas skull beings seem to have had red hair. Of course, we don't know what hair the Maria would have had. I don't think. If did she have hair? Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, toxic fart. Toxic fart. Your name tickles me. Says when Spielberg's E.T. wanted to phone home, he just needed a long distance call to Peru. He did, man. He did. How did Spielberg nail the look of E.T. so successfully? Man, that is a great question. I'm not the first person to ask that. Yeah, in toxic, that is a thing. You are so right. The ET resembles the Nazca mummies so closely. How is that? What information was Steven Spielberg privy to? I mean, these mummies weren't even discovered by the Tomb Raiders until like 2009 or something, early 2000s. Yeah. So, but these beings seem to be still living here on Earth. People report these beings coming and going from caves in the mountains, and they seem to be having a global presence. That being in Siberia, that corpse seems to, the recent corpse of that Siberian being, if that was a legit being, and there's some evidence to indicate it was. It had the 3 holes on the side of its face, just like the little guys in Nazca. And it looks so much like those beings. So if that thing is real, if that being was a real being, then we've got Russian aliens, guys. We've got Russian Nazca beings, and probably globally as well. And then you've got the little guys like Alyoshinka and the Atacama body and others that are even smaller. And the Atacama body is really interesting because it was very recent. It was alive just decades ago. Whatever it was alive just decades ago. Alyoshinka was living when that Russian lady took it in and began feeding it. There are, at the very least, living small non-humans here on Earth with us. We do live in Middle Earth, guys. We do live in Middle Earth. There is magic. There is mystery. There are, little guys living underground. It's a crazy magical world that we live in. Yeah. Oh, Dr. Fart, thank you so much again. I appreciate that. Spielberg also knew about the UFO landing in New Mexico, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That is an amazing movie. And yes, that is really interesting how he depicts that UFO interaction. It really is the contact they were having. Jacques Vallée was giving some advice, to Spielberg on that. And, he had a character inspired by Jacques Vallée as part of that movie. What information does Steven Spielberg have access to? What does he know? What is he trying to reveal in his movies? And, how accurate is that? Because those beings that were coming out of those ships, or that big mother ship in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it also looks like some of the Nazca mummies. It really does. Those beings really do. Spindly little guys, long heads, the shape of their face. They look a lot like those beings in the Maki Maki Cave in Easter Island, which again look very similar to the Nazca mummies. Yeah, it's amazing, guys. That's an awesome point. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. And so does Ben. Hey, Ben. All right, guys. See y'all guys next time. Love you guys.